Era walked slowly through the quiet ruins, her steps echoing against the cold stone. She had come alone because she believed these ruins were safe. Her people had visited many times, and nothing dangerous had ever appeared. But today felt different. The air was still, too still, as if the world itself held its breath. She held a small scanner in her hand. It beeped softly as it detected old energy traces. Era's long silver hair brushed her shoulders as she bent down to study a strange mark on the floor. It was a circle, burned into the stone, with lines that formed a pattern she had never seen. She reached out and touched the mark. The stone was warm. That was wrong. Stone in ruins was never warm. Era stood quickly, her heart thumping. She looked around, but there was no wind, no movement, no sound. The ruins were supposed to be empty, abandoned for centuries. She swallowed, feeling a tremor crawl through her chest. Her people believed these ruins once belonged to an ancient race. A race known for violence and strange machines. A race they feared so much that they never even spoke its name. But Era was curious. She wanted to understand the past, even the dark parts of it. She took one more step deeper into the ruins. Then the floor shook. She froze, her eyes wide. A low growl rumbled from the shadows ahead. It was heavy, metallic, and angry. Era slowly backed away. She lifted her scanner, but the screen flickered and died. Everything around her suddenly felt colder. From the darkness, something moved. 2 red lights appeared. They were eyes. Cold, sharp, unblinking eyes. Era gasped and turned to run, but the creature stepped out of the darkness and blocked her path. It was huge, taller than any person she had ever seen. Its body was made of metal, fused with living flesh. Its arms were long and ended in claws that scraped against the floor. Its face looked almost like a skull, but twisted and wrong, with teeth of steel. Era stumbled backward and fell. Her legs shook too much to support her. The creature let out a shriek that rattled her bones. She knew she could not outrun it. She knew she was going to die. She closed her eyes. She waited for the claws. She waited for the pain. But something else happened. A loud crack echoed through the ruins, like metal breaking. A burst of bright blue light flashed behind her eyelids. Era opened her eyes in shock. The creature roared, stumbling back. Something had struck it from the side. Era pushed herself up just enough to see a figure running toward her. It was a human. He wore a torn jacket and a backpack with pieces of broken metal sticking out of it. His dark hair was messy, and his face was streaked with dust, but his eyes were sharp and focused. He held a strange device in his hands, some kind of tool that crackled with electricity. He shouted, "Move!" Era didn't understand his language at first, but his tone was clear. She rolled to the side just as the creature slashed at the ground where she had been. The human ran past her, swinging the electric tool. It hit the creature's arm, sending sparks flying. The beast screamed and staggered back again. The human did not stop. He ran straight toward the monster, fearless and determined. Era scrambled to her feet and watched in disbelief. Her people said humans were wild, reckless, and dangerous. But this one had just saved her life. The creature lunged at the human, but he jumped aside and dashed to a broken pillar. He yanked something from his backpack, a round metal disc with wires. He slapped it onto the pillar and twisted a knob. The disc lit up and started to hum. The creature charged. The human waited. Then he ducked. The creature hit the pillar, and the disc exploded in a blast of light. The shock wave knocked the creature back and threw dust into the air. The human shielded his face with his arm. Era coughed and covered her mouth. She could not see well through the dust, but she heard the creature shrieking in pain. When the dust settled, the beast was struggling to stand. Its metal parts were cracked and sparking. The human stepped forward, breathing hard. He raised his electric tool again, and for a moment, Ara thought he might finish the creature. But the beast suddenly spun and ran into the tunnels. Screeching as it fled, silence returned. The human lowered the tool and let out a long breath. He turned toward Ara. She stared at him, unsure whether she should run, thank him, or fear him. He approached slowly, careful not to scare her. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Ara hesitated. She understood the meaning of his words from old lessons, but hearing them spoken by a real human felt strange. She shook her head. He nodded. "Good." He sat down on a broken stone and rubbed his forehead. "That thing almost got you. You shouldn't be here alone." Ara stepped closer, still cautious. "Why are you here?" The human looked up at her. His eyes were tired but kind. "Name's Day One," he said. "My ship crashed nearby. I was looking for parts. And then I found you." Ara studied him. His clothes were torn, and his hands were scratched. He looked tired, hungry, and lost. But he had fought a monster twice his size without stopping. He had saved her. "I am Ara," she said softly. Daywan smiled a little. "Nice to meet you, Ara." She felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had never met a human before. Her people said humans were dangerous, violent, not to be trusted. Daywan had risked his life for her. She looked toward the dark tunnel where the creature had escaped. "It will come back," she whispered. Daywan stood and picked up his tool. "I know," he said. "These things don't give up easily. That one was hunting something. Maybe you." Ara's throat tightened. "Why would it hunt me?" Daywan looked thoughtful. "Maybe it wasn't hunting you. Maybe it was defending something in these ruins." He touched the wall, brushing off dust. "These ruins are older than we thought, and they're not as empty as people believed." Ara wrapped her arms around herself. The air felt colder again. "My people say these ruins are from an old, violent race," she said. "A race that studied many worlds." "Studied," Daywan repeated. "Or tested." Ara looked at him, confused. "Tested?" Daywan pointed toward the tunnel. "That creature wasn't natural. Someone made it." Ara shivered. Why would someone make a monster like that? Daywan looked at her with a serious expression. "I think someone wanted to see what humans would do when faced with something that shouldn't exist." Ara's heart skipped. "Why humans?" He shrugged. "Humans adapt. Humans fight. Humans survive. Maybe that scared them." Ara looked at him in silence. She remembered the way he had rushed toward the monster without fear, the way he protected her, the way he used every piece of broken metal to fight. Maybe humans were frightening, but maybe they were something more. Daywan slung his backpack over his shoulder. "We need to move," he said. "That thing will come back with friends, and I don't think either of us wants to meet them." Ara nodded. For the first time, she was glad she was not alone. As they walked deeper into the ruins together, Ara felt a small spark of hope. She did not know what waited for them. She did not know why the monsters existed, but she knew one thing. Human had saved her, and the universe suddenly felt much bigger and much more dangerous than she ever imagined. Ara followed Daywan through the dim hallway, trying to keep her steps quiet. The ruins felt colder and darker than before, as if the walls themselves were watching. Broken machines lay scattered across the floor, some twisted into strange shapes. Others still hummed softly with fading energy. Ara had never seen anything like them. Daywan moved with practiced caution. His eyes scanned every shadow, every crack in the walls. Ara noticed how tense his shoulders were. He was alert, ready to fight again if the creature returned. She stayed close, but tried not to slow him down. "You should stay behind me," Daywan said without looking back. Ara blinked. Why? If something jumps out, I can block it. You don't have anything to fight with. She looked down at her empty hands. He was right. She had brought only a scanner, which was now broken. She nodded and moved behind him. The thought that a human was protecting her felt strange, almost unreal. They continued walking until the hallway opened into a wide chamber. The ceiling rose high above them, covered in glowing symbols that shifted like living ink. A soft blue light filled the space, making everything look ghostly. In the center of the room stood a tall metal tower, cracked and rusted. Wires curled around its base like frozen vines. Daewon stepped closer. This place is a control room, he said. Someone ran tests here. A long time ago. Era touched one of the glowing symbols on the wall. It brightened under her fingers. My people never saw this room. We thought the ruins ended at the main hall. She looked around with wide eyes. This is beautiful, but also frightening. Daewon nodded. That creature didn't come from nowhere. It was made here, probably kept in stasis until something woke it up. He knelt by the base of the tower, brushing away dust. These wires? They're still active. The place isn't dead yet. Era felt chills run down her arms. If the systems are active, that means more creatures could wake up. Yeah, Daewon said softly. I was thinking the same thing. She walked closer to him, watching his hands as he inspected the old machine. He handled the wires with care, as if he understood how the technology worked. Era had studied many machines from other worlds, but human technology was strange to her. Simple, sometimes crude, but surprisingly effective. Daewon suddenly frowned. This tower is broadcasting something. Or it was. A signal, maybe. He tapped a loose panel. If I can read the data, we might learn why these creatures exist. Era hesitated. Do we want to know? He gave her a tired smile. Not knowing is more dangerous. She watched him open a small device from his backpack and attach it to one of the tower's ports. The screen on his device flickered, then displayed streams of symbols she didn't understand. This language, Daewon muttered. It's old, but some parts look familiar. Era tilted her head. Familiar? You recognize some of it? A little. Humans found ruins like this on other planets long ago. Some symbols match. We thought they belonged to an extinct race that liked to study other species. He sighed. Humans included. Era felt her chest tighten. Study? In what way? Daewon looked up at her, his expression serious. Not peaceful study. More like testing limits. Stress, fear, survival. They wanted to see how far living beings could be pushed before breaking. Era shivered. That is horrible. Yeah, and humans were one of their favorite subjects. He looked back at the device. Because humans don't break easily. Era tried to imagine humans being hunted by monsters like the one earlier. The thought made her stomach twist. Her people always believed humans were violent because they wanted to be. But what if humans became strong because something forced them to? A loud crack echoed from the hallway behind them. Era flinched and took a step closer to Daewon. It's coming back. Daewon stood quickly, gripping his electric tool. His eyes narrowed. It's not alone now. I hear more than one. Era's breath caught in her throat. She listened carefully. The sounds were faint at first, scraping metal, low growls, heavy steps. Her heart pounded faster. Daewon pointed to another exit on the far side of the chamber. We need to move, now. They hurried across the room, but before they reached the door, something slammed against the entrance they came from. The metal walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Era froze. How many are there? Daewon didn't answer. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her through the far doorway. They ran into another narrow corridor. This one was filled with cables hanging from the ceiling like dark vines. Era tried to keep her breathing steady as she followed him. She could hear the creatures behind them. They were fast, much faster than she expected. Daewon turned sharply into a side passage. We need higher ground. If we get trapped in a straight hallway, we're dead. Era nodded, though she struggled to keep up. Her legs were not as strong as his, and fear slowed her steps. The passage opened into another room, smaller than the last one. Broken screens lined the walls. Tables were overturned, and strange metal tools lay scattered everywhere. Daewon scanned the room quickly. Look for anything we can use. Even parts of machines. Anything that can slow them down. Era hurried to one of the tables. Most of the tools were too heavy or broken, but she found a small cylinder with a cracked energy core. She lifted it. Will this help? Daewon looked over and nodded. Good. Hand it to me. He took the cylinder, twisted a few wires together, and the device started to vibrate. This should explode if something hits it hard enough. He set it near the doorway. Era swallowed hard. Are we going to fight them? We don't have a choice, Daewon said. But we don't fight to win. We fight to escape. The noise in the hallway grew louder. The creatures were close. Era could feel the vibrations under her feet. Daewon took a deep breath and faced the door. Stay behind me. No matter what. Era wanted to argue, but fear stopped the words. She stepped behind him, gripping her arms tightly. A metal claw punched through the doorway. Then another. The door tore apart, and two creatures burst into the room. Their bodies were like the first one, metal and flesh fused together, with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth. The first creature stepped on the cylinder device. It exploded in a burst of harsh white light. The shock wave threw the creature backward and shattered part of its chest. The second creature shrieked as sparks flew across its body. Daewon rushed forward and struck the damaged creature with his electric tool. It collapsed, twitching. The second creature lunged at him, but Era shouted a warning. Daewon rolled aside just in time. The creature slammed into a metal table. Daewon grabbed another tool from the floor, a heavy wrench, and swung it with all his strength. The creature's jaw cracked sideways. It roared and slashed at him. Era's legs trembled as she watched. She wanted to help, but what could she do? She felt useless, helpless. Daewon dodged another strike and jabbed the creature's eye with the electric tool. It screeched and stumbled back. Era! The wires! Daewon shouted. Era looked around wildly until she saw a bundle of loose cables on the floor. She grabbed them, though her hands shook. What do I do? Throw them. She threw the cables toward the creature. The metal coils wrapped around its legs. Daewon kicked the creature, knocking it off balance. It fell, hitting its head on the corner of a broken console. The room fell silent again. Era's breath shook as she exhaled. Are there more? Daewon listened. Not right now. He wiped sweat from his forehead. But they won't stop coming. Era stared at the fallen creatures. She could not believe something so terrifying could exist. She looked at Daewon. Why are they here? Why did that ancient race create them? Daewon walked to the doorway and looked down the hall. Because they wanted to see how humans respond when pushed to the edge. These creatures were tests, and humans were the experiment. Era felt cold again. She stepped closer to him. But you are not the same humans from those old experiments. You are different. Daewon looked at her with a tired expression. Maybe, but humans still do whatever it takes to survive. That's why they tested us. Because humans adapt. Humans fight back. Era thought of the way he fought, the way he protected her, even though he was exhausted and injured. Maybe that was why those ancient beings feared humans. Daewon tightened his grip on his tool. We need to find a safe place. A room we can secure. And I can try reading the rest of the data. Era nodded. I will help. I cannot fight like you, but I can help in other ways. Daewon gave a small smile. Good. I'm glad you're here, Hera. A warm feeling spread through her chest. Even in this dark place, even with danger everywhere, she felt a little stronger. They left the room together, stepping over the fallen monsters. The hallway ahead was long and uncertain, but they walked side by side. Era did not know what waited for them. But she knew she was no longer afraid to face it with Daewon beside her. Era and Daewon walked carefully through the silent corridors, moving deeper into the ruins. The air had grown heavier, as if the walls were breathing slowly. Strange lights flickered above them, some turning on only when they passed beneath. Era felt as if the entire place was watching them. Daewon stopped now and then to listen for more creatures. Era followed his lead, trusting his instincts. He moved like someone who had survived dangerous places before, someone who knew how to stay alive even when everything around him tried to kill him. Era wished she had the same strength. Every sound made her jump, and the thought of more creatures made her stomach twist. But she kept going. Daewon needed her help, and she did not want to slow him down. They reached a narrow staircase leading downward. Daewon pointed with his tool. We should go this way. The signal from the tower looked like it came from below. Maybe there's another control center down there. Ara looked at the dark stairway. It seemed endless. Are you sure? No, Daewon admitted. But if we stay up here, the creatures will corner us sooner or later. He started down the stairs. Come on. Era followed, gripping the cold stone handrail. The stairs creaked under their feet, as if warning them to turn back. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Era could see her breath as a thin mist. When they reached the bottom, they found a long hall filled with rows of glass chambers. Most were broken, their glass cracked or shattered. Some still held dried remains of strange organisms, twisted shapes that made Era's skin crawl. Daewon examined one of the chambers. These were stasis pods, he said. The creatures were grown here, tested in different conditions. He touched the glass. Some of these pods were opened recently, not long before we arrived. Era stepped back in fear. Do you think more of them escaped? Most likely, Daewon said. But maybe not all woke up yet. That's why we need to understand this place. If we can shut it down, the rest might stay asleep. Era walked to another pod. Inside was a creature smaller than the others they fought, but its shape was similar metal fused with flesh, red eyes staring even in death. Why would a race create things like this? Why mix metal and life? Daewon folded his arms. To make something that doesn't die easily. Something that can keep fighting, no matter the damage. He looked at her. If you wanted to test humans, this would be the way. Push them against impossible enemies. See how far they can go. Era shuddered. It is cruel. It is, he agreed quietly. They kept walking until they reached a large metal door half buried in dust. Daewon pushed it, and to their surprise, it slid open with a long hiss. Inside was a control room similar to the one above, but cleaner, less damaged. Screens still glowed faintly. Machines hummed like they had been waiting. Hera stepped inside with wide eyes. This place is still alive. Daewon approached the central console. Let's hope it has answers. He took out his device and connected it to the console. The screen lit with symbols, then shifted to a clearer pattern. Daewon's expression changed. His brows furrowed, his mouth tightened. Hera, you need to see this. She came beside him and looked at the screen. She did not understand the symbols, but she recognized one thing. Images. Dozens of images. They showed humans running through dark corridors, fighting creatures, building weapons out of debris, protecting one another. Some images were centuries old. Others looked newer, as if the test had continued long after the ancient race disappeared. Era placed a hand over her mouth. How many humans were taken? Daiwan scrolled through the data. Hundreds. He paused. Maybe thousands over time. Different planets. Different eras. All brought here. Era felt sick. My people never knew. We thought we were the only ones who feared this place. Daiwan sighed. Humans never knew either. These ruins are scattered across many worlds. Most were destroyed long ago. But some, like this one, stayed active, waiting for someone to trigger them. Era stared at the image of a small group of humans fighting together. Their faces were tired, determined, desperate. They survived as long as they could, until the creatures overwhelmed them. Humans always push back, Daiwan said quietly. That's why the ancient race studied them. Humans don't break, even when they should. He leaned on the console. But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Era reached out and touched his arm. He looked surprised, but she kept her hand there. I am sorry your people went through this. Daiwan looked away, blinking. It was a long time ago. Doesn't mean we forget. Before Era could speak again, a loud alarm echoed through the room. The screens flashed red. Daiwan straightened quickly. Something activated. Era's heart raced. What does it mean? Daiwan tapped the console. Something in the lower levels woke up. I think. It's the main guardian creature. His voice tightened. The core beast. Era stepped back. The others were not the main one? No, those were smaller units. But the core beast is different. Bigger, smarter. It controls the others. Davin grabbed his tool and backpack. We have to move. If it reaches us here, we won't survive. They ran from the room as the alarm continued to blare. The hall lights flickered violently, casting strange shadows on the walls. Era felt her legs shaking, but she forced herself to keep up Dot as they reached the stairs. A deep roar echoed from below. Era froze for a moment. The sound was unlike the others, deeper, heavier, filled with anger. Daiwan grabbed her hand. Era, don't stop. Move. She ran with him, her heart pounding. They climbed the stairs as fast as they could. Behind them, the metal walls trembled as the roar grew louder. Dot when they reached the upper level. Daiwan slammed the door shut behind them and placed a metal bar across it. This won't hold for long, he said. But it will slow it down. Era leaned against the wall, gasping. Daiwan, that thing. It sounded enormous. It is, Daiwan said. The ancient race made it to be unstoppable. But unstoppable things always have a weakness. We just need to find it before it finds us. Era nodded, though fear still filled her. Where do we go now? Daiwan looked down the next hallway. There should be a main chamber ahead. The heart of the facility. If we can shut down the power core, everything might go offline. The machines, the creatures, all of it. Era followed him, her steps shaky. And if we cannot shut it down? Daiwan gave a small, grim smile. Then we run until we can't run anymore. The hallway grew wider the deeper they went. Strange machines lined the walls, some still humming. The air buzzed with energy, as if the ruins themselves were waking up. Era stopped suddenly. Daiwan, look. In front of them, several broken screens flickered. On them appeared images, live images. One showed the staircase they had just climbed. Another showed the hallway they had passed through. And another showed the core beast. Dot. It was massive, with multiple limbs. A body of black metal and living tissue, and eyes that glowed bright red. It moved with terrifying speed, crawling up the walls like an insect. Era stepped back in terror. It is coming for us. Daiwan watched the screen, his jaw tightening. Then we don't have much time. He turned and grabbed Era's hand again. Come on. We need to reach the power core before that thing catches up. Era ran beside him, her breath shaky, but her resolve stronger than before. She no longer felt helpless. She was afraid, yes, but she was also angry at the ancient race that had created monsters. Angry at the suffering humans had gone through, and angry that the creatures would not stop. Awan squeezed her hand. We'll make it. We have to. Era nodded. She believed him, not because he was human, but because he had already shown he would fight until the very end. They ran into the darkness of the hallway as the roar of the core beast echoed behind them, shaking the very walls of the ruins. And Era knew that if they failed, the monsters would not stop until everything living was destroyed. Era and Daiwan hurried through the widening corridor, the lights flickering overhead like nervous fireflies. Every few steps, a distant roar echoed, shaking the old metal beams and sending dust drifting down around them. Era felt her heart beating hard in her chest, but she kept running. Daiwan's hand gripped hers tightly, guiding her through the maze-like ruins. The power core should be close, Awan said, his voice rough from running. If we shut it down, everything might stop the monsters, the alarms, all of it. Era nodded, even though fear twisted in her stomach. And if we cannot shut it down? Daiwan forced a small smile. Then we improvise. Humans are good at that. Era did not think she would ever forget the way he kept calm, even when danger pressed in from all sides. It made her feel braver, too. They reached a large door with a glowing lock. Symbols pulsed on its surface, shifting like liquid light. Era stepped closer. This is not human technology. I do not know how to open it. Daiwan knelt beside the lock. Maybe I can. These symbols look like the ones in the first control room. He pulled a thin cable from his backpack and connected it to the door's panel. His small device lit up again. Era watched him work. His fingers moved quickly, tapping buttons, adjusting wires, bending the old machine to his will. She admired his focus. Her people said humans were impatient and sloppy, but Daiwan was careful and steady. The lock glowed brighter, then dimmed. A loud click echoed. The door slid open, revealing a massive chamber shaped like a circle. At its center was a glowing sphere of pale blue energy suspended above a platform. Cables ran from it to every wall, pulsing like veins. Era stepped inside slowly. Is that the power core? Daiwan nodded. That's my guess. The whole place runs off this thing. He let out a long breath. We need to shut it down. Before Era could respond, the ground trembled. A cold shiver ran down her back. Daiwan. It is here. He heard it too. A low rumble echoed through the hall behind them. They spun toward the doorway, just as something large and dark passed by the frame. It found us, Daiwan whispered. Era stepped closer to him, fear gripping her. The core beast entered the chamber with a heavy sound like cracking metal. It was huge, larger than any creature they had seen before. Its body looked like a mix of black steel and living flesh, pulsing with energy. Multiple limbs crawled across the walls as it lowered itself toward them. Its eyes glowed a deep, burning red dot. Era froze, unable to move. Daiwan stepped forward, lifting his electric tool. Era, stay behind me. She grabbed his arm. You cannot fight that alone. I know, he said softly, but I can slow it down. He took a deep breath. We need time to shut the core down. Era looked at the glowing sphere. If I try to disable it, will it hurt me? Probably, Daiwan admitted. But I'll keep it off you. She nodded. Then I will try. The creature lunged. Daewon shoved Era aside and charged forward. The electric tool crackled with bright blue light as he struck the creature's arm. Sparks flew everywhere, and a horrible scraping noise filled the room. The creature shrieked and swung one of its massive limbs at him. Daewon rolled to the side, barely avoiding being crushed. He grabbed a metal pipe from the floor and swung it at the creature's joint. The pipe bent instantly, but the hit threw the beast off balance. Era rushed to the core and placed her hands on the platform. Her fingers trembled as she studied the glowing symbols around it. Come on, come on. There must be a way to shut you down. The symbols shifted, resisting her touch. Behind her, Daewon shouted, Era! Hurry! Era forced herself to focus. Her world was filled with fear, noise, and shaking metal, but she pushed everything else away. The core pulsed with strong energy, and she felt it pushing back at her. For a moment, she thought her hands might burn. She closed her eyes, and she listened. She followed the rhythm of the symbols, the pattern they made. Slowly, she moved her fingers along the lines, tracing shapes she barely understood. The core flickered. That's it! Daewon yelled. Era continued moving her hands. The light shifted again, dimming. But before she could finish, a loud crash echoed behind her. She turned just in time to see the creature strike Daewon across the room. He hit the wall hard and fell to the ground. Daewon! She screamed. He groaned, struggling to stand. The creature turned toward him again. Era ran between them, arms outstretched. No, stop. The creature paused. For a moment, it stared at her with its burning eyes. Confused by her sudden bravery, Daewon forced himself to his feet, clutching his side. Era, move. She shook her head. No, it will kill you. The creature raised its claws. Daewon grabbed a broken metal panel and threw it at the creature's head. Over here! He shouted. The creature turned back toward him. Era felt something ignite inside her, a fire she had never known. She ran back to the core and slammed both hands onto the platform. Shut down! Shut down! Please shut down! The symbols flared with white light. The room shook violently. The creature roared and charged toward her. Daewon ran with everything he had left and tackled the creature from the side. He held onto one of its limbs, trying to pull it away from Era. The creature threw him off, slamming him onto the floor. Era felt tears in her eyes, but she did not stop. Her hands burned painfully as she forced the symbols into alignment. Come on, come on. A blast of light shot from the core. The creature screamed in pain as the energy washed over the room. Its limbs jerked wildly, and its body sparked violently. The cables in the walls snapped one by one. Ira stumbled back. Daewon crawled toward her. Ira! The core cracked. A second blast of energy exploded outward. The creature collapsed to the floor, twitching, then fell still as its red eyes dimmed to dark black. Daewon reached Era and shielded her as debris rained from the ceiling. The chamber shook as the machines shut down one after another. The glowing lights faded. The air thinned. Then everything went silent. Daewon gently lowered Era to the floor. Are you okay? She looked at him with tears in her eyes. You saved me, again. He smiled weakly. You saved me, too. We did it together. Era looked at the fallen creature. Is it dead? Daewon nodded. The core powered everything. With it gone, the creatures can't move anymore. Era breathed out in relief. Daewon leaned back against the wall, wincing in pain. We should leave before the whole place collapses. Era nodded and helped him stand. She placed his arm over her shoulder, supporting his weight. Lean on me. I will help you. He chuckled softly. You're stronger than you think, Era. They walked together toward the exit. The halls were quiet now. dead and cold. The fear that once filled them was fading, replaced by a small, growing hope. "Day-Wan," Era whispered, "why did you fight so hard for me? You could have run." Day-Wan looked at her softly. "Humans don't leave people behind. Not when it matters." Era squeezed his hand. "I am glad you were here." He smiled. "Me too." They stepped into the faint light of the upper ruins. Somewhere above them, Era's people would soon arrive. She knew everything was about to change her world, her beliefs, everything. But one thing was clear, she was not afraid anymore, not with Day-Wan by her side. The sun hung low over the ruined plain, casting long shadows across the broken structures that had once belonged to an ancient race. Era helped Day-Wan walk slowly across the uneven ground. His steps were unsteady, and his breath came out in soft, tired bursts, but he refused to stop. "We made it out," he said quietly. Era nodded, though her mind was still heavy. The monster was gone, the power core destroyed, and the facility silent. But the danger had not fully passed. The ground trembled every few minutes as the dead machines inside collapsed under their own weight. "We need to put distance between us and the ruins," Era said. "If the whole place falls, the dust cloud will be dangerous." Day-Wan tightened his grip around her shoulders. "Lead the way." "I'm right here." They walked for a long time, moving slowly away from the old facility. The air felt different, now lighter, cleaner. For the first time since she had met Day-Wan, Era was able to breathe without fear chasing her breath. When they reached a ridge overlooking a small valley, Era gently lowered Day-Wan to sit against a smooth stone. He winced but smiled. "I'm fine," he said. "Just need a moment." Era sat beside him. She kept her eyes on the ruins behind them until the sun was almost gone. Only then did she let her shoulders relax. "My people will come soon," she whispered. "I sent a signal before the core started to break. They will search this region." Day-Wan looked at her carefully. "Do you think they'll be okay with me being here?" Era hesitated. She knew the answer, but she did not know how to soften it. "Many of them fear humans. They have old stories. They believe humans are dangerous." She paused. "But they have never met someone like you." Day-Wan chuckled weakly. "Someone reckless?" She shook her head. "Someone kind. Someone who fights for others." A quiet moment passed between them. The wind brushed gently over the valley, rustling the dry grass around them. "Era," Day-Wan finally said, "I didn't save you because I wanted thanks. I saved you because it felt right. I saw you were scared, and I couldn't let you die." Her heart ached. "And I could not let you die either. When that creature struck you, I felt like the world was breaking apart." He looked away, embarrassed. "That's kind of dramatic." She touched his hand. "It is true." Day-Wan swallowed hard. "Era, what happens now?" Before she could answer, a distant hum filled the air. Era stood quickly and scanned the sky. A sleek silver ship glided between the clouds, its wings glowing softly with blue light. "They're here," she said. Day-Wan pushed himself up, but Era shook her head. "Stay seated. You are hurt." He reluctantly sat back down. The ship descended slowly until it hovered above the valley. A ramp lowered, and a group of Era's people stepped out tall, armored, their eyes sharp and alert. The leader approached first. Era recognized him immediately. "Father." She whispered. Her father, Insuk, stopped a short distance away. His expression was stern, but his eyes softened slightly when he saw her. "Era," he said, "you are alive. We received your signal, but feared the worst." Era bowed her head respectfully. "I survived because Day-Wan helped me." In-Suk's eyes drifted to the human, sitting weakly against the stone. "A human?" he asked, voice stiff. Daewon lifted a hand awkwardly. Hello." Several soldiers instinctively stepped forward, weapons raised. Era moved quickly, standing between Daewon and the soldiers. "Stop!" she shouted. Everyone froze. "He saved my life," Era said firmly. "More than once. Without him, I would still be trapped inside the ruins or dead." She looked directly at her father. "He risked his life for me." In-Suk studied her expression. Then he glanced at the ruins behind them. "We saw the energy surge from the ship. Was that your doing?" "Both of us," Era said. "We shut down the core. The creature tried to kill us. Daewon fought it so I could disable the power source. He nearly died." She stepped closer to her father. "Please. He is not our enemy." The soldiers looked uncertain. They had never seen a human before, only heard stories. After a long silence, In-Suk nodded once. "Stand down," he ordered. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Era let out a breath. She didn't realize she was holding In-Suk. Walked closer to Daewon and studied him with thoughtful eyes. "You are injured. We will give you medical aid." Daewon blinked. "Really?" "I mean, thank you." 2 soldiers helped him stand. Era stayed close to him as they guided him toward the ship. Daewon glanced at her. "Your father doesn't seem as scary as you made him sound," he whispered. Era smiled faintly. "You do not know him yet." Inside the ship, Daewon was placed on a soft bed while the medics examined him. Era stayed by his side. Her father stood nearby, watching quietly. "Era," In-Suk said, "you have changed." She looked at him. "I had to." He nodded. "Perhaps it is time our world changed too." Era turned back to Daewon. "He will heal, yes?" A medic nodded. "His injuries are not life-threatening. He needs rest." Daewon closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again to look at her. "Don't go too far," he said softly. "I will not," she promised. Hours passed as the ship carried them away from the ruins. Daewon slept for most of the flight, exhausted from everything he had endured. Era sat beside him, holding his hand gently. When he finally woke again, the ship had landed at one of the safe outposts of her people. The sky outside was bright with a new dawn. Daewon blinked. "Did we make it?" Era smiled. "We did." Her father approached. "Daewon." Daewon straightened. "Yes, sir?" In-Suk considered him for a moment. "You protected my daughter. For that, you have my respect. Humans and our people have long been apart. But perhaps it is time we learn to trust each other again." Daewon nodded. "I'd like that." Era stepped closer. "What will you do now?" He looked at her softly. "If your people will let me stay, I want to stay near you." Her heart warmed. "Then stay?" "I want that too." In-Suk exhaled slowly, but did not refuse. "We will discuss arrangements. But for now, rest. Both of you." As her father walked away, Era sat beside Daewon again. "You are safe now," she whispered. Daewon shook his head with a tired laugh. "Only because you saved me this time." She leaned her head gently against his shoulder. "We saved each other." Outside the ship, the first sunlight of a new day washed over the land. The ruins of the ancient facility faded behind them. Nothing more than broken shadows. Era looked toward the horizon with Daewon beside her. A new chapter was waiting for them, one filled with uncertain paths, new bonds, and a future neither of their worlds had expected. But she was not afraid, not anymore. And Daewon, sitting quietly at her side, squeezed her hand. They faced the sunrise together.